Councilwoman, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Dallas is on the verge of building potentially its biggest bond in almost 20 years, likely asking voters to approve at least $1 billion, maybe more than that. What must that money include?
It needs to include our infrastructure. We have got to bring that up to speed of what the region wants, what our city expects, and our customers. We have some old pipes, some old streets, and we have to invest in that. We may need to look at not building new, bright, shiny things. Not that it's never going to happen, it just may not happen this year. But our streets, especially in D9, are crumbling, and that is the inner city. And if we don't have a strong infrastructure, we can't attract investment, we can't attract businesses, and we sure aren't going to attract people to live here.
The bond could be $100 million more.
Correct.
Which would make it $1.1 billion.
Correct.
How likely is that to happen, first of all?
I think the discussion's going to happen. I don't know. We got that number yesterday, and I don't know if we're going to actually get there. Okay. Because we have some looming discussions about pensions that we need to address. And so I don't know if people want to take it all the way to the ceiling.
Let me talk about streets.
Sure.
And parks, because that's heavy in the bond idea right now. I know we're still early on this. You and I have talked about this before. Streets in Dallas are in terrible condition.
Correct.
In your district, District 9. Couldn't City Hall address the street problem and clean a lot of this up to prevent money being spent from the bond by policing when contractors and utilities cut the streets and don't patch them correctly?
I'm sure. I mean, I had that happen in the far northeast part of my district. I had a contractor who basically change orders was his way of making him whole. And so, yes, we could be better at making sure that our dollar goes longer. And I think that is on us to make sure that happens. And our streets are what's suffering.
IT is asking for $135 million. Everybody in North Texas has seen the headlines about what's going on with Dallas IT. The city's proposing giving it $27 million. I think you originally proposed $16 million. Mm-hmm. That's a big difference between $16 million or $27 million and $135, what they're asking for. Any idea what that money is for? And is $27 million enough to fix the problems that IT is having?
So the money will be used to bring our systems up to par. We have a lot of antiquated systems regarding IT in the city. And so that will be used to bring them up to 21st century standards. Is it enough? I don't know. We're going to be getting into those really deep discussions about what are we buying with that money, and is it going to get us what we need to make sure that we are safe with our data. And I put it in when we first did our conversations about how much money, and there wasn't an IT item. And I said, you know what, we probably should do this. And I'm glad to see that we have a little bit, and we need a little bit. But the question is, do we actually need more? And where's that cut going to come from? What are we going to have to not do this year in order to get this done?
The other big vote coming up this coming week is on property taxes. It's called a ceiling vote when council decides how much money they're going to cut taxes by. People at the end of the day obviously want lower bills, not
Correct.
Lower rates. You know that, we're all taxpayers. What do you tell those folks? Why not flat line it out where you lower the tax rate enough where people don't see their bills go up?
So
is that possible to
It is
do?
possible. You can roll it back to where it is flat. The question, though, is that means we have to give something up. And as you've said, our infrastructure has great needs. Our parks need to be cleaned. We need to pay our firefighters, our police, our first responders. So the question is what do we forego? And I believe that if we can increase or do a little bit and get more, then we should look at doing that. Right now we're at 0.65 cents as a decrease. I would love to see it come down to a full cent. But that question is that means we've got to compress somewhere. And that is the big debate, is what am I going to give up, or what is somebody else in another district going to give up in order to get that done? But we can't keep taxing people out of their homes. We hear it all the time.
The city's also putting together its next budget right now, as cities across the state are doing. City manager recommends spending, I think, more than $4.5 billion. Mayor says that the city's spending is outpacing Dallas's growth. Is that true? And if so, are there places to cut?
So what we have is our last year of COVID money that has been influxed into our budgets, and this is the last tranche that we're seeing of that. I do believe that the city manager will not give us a budget that's not balanced in future years. So it's kind of, yes, we have this money that's coming in, and it's not going to be here next year. So the question is what are we going to do to make sure that we keep our services up, that we don't forego our infrastructure needs. And so, but I have faith that our city manager will make sure that we are continuing down that path of having a balanced budget.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
But I was going to say we have, high FTEs. Our employee count has gotten higher than I've seen. And that's always a concern because those are huge dollars. And letting somebody go, having a reduction in force is never a good thing. I've lived with it in the 2008 and 9. And we need to be really thoughtful in this budget because it is going to affect the next one.
Let me ask a tad more about that. Dallas does have a big chunk of COVID money left to spend. That COVID money is not going to be here next year when you guys go through the budget process again. Does that mean cuts next year?
It could, but I'm hoping that it's not cuts to services, and it's
what
not
would it be
cuts.
To, do you think?
I think it will be back to that staffing because we are on track to have a pretty big staffing count, and like I've said, those are big dollars. And so if they're managing a project that is a COVID project, it may be that, that's a grant fund and it goes away when the money goes away. Or that we may need to look at partnering with groups on the outside so we don't get rid of the program, but we learn how to work with the private sector and the nonprofit sector to get our needs met.
Councilwoman, thank you for the time. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Jason.